Hello everyone, welcome back to Spiritual Essence, and I have another detail on my investigation into the One. And I like to be consistent. Anytime I get some new progress or some new information, I want to tell you guys right away, because this is very important, at least to me. I believe that if we found out more information about the One, it could also tell us a lot about where we're going or where we should be going in life, and prove once and for all exactly what we can accomplish as human beings, as spiritual beings. So lately I have been working with a subscriber of mine who is just into magic as I am. He's just as much into magic as I am, maybe even a little more so. The things he's told me about, very impressive, and I can definitely feel his powerful energy. We have agreed to work together, and so far he's trying to help me into my investigation into the One, and we were trying to decipher exactly who was Awen. Now, if you don't really know what I'm talking about, in my past investigations, we looked into Cerridwen and Awen. Cerridwen is a Welsh goddess of inspiration and transformation. There are quite a few legends about her, but I do believe that she was at one point a real person. She was a living person who had incredible power based on Awen, who is the spark of life. She was worshipped by bards to help them with their craft. And besides that information, I didn't really have that much information on who Awen was. The bulk that I got from her is from a book that I have been reading that I have not finished yet, about Cerridwen, and it also describes Awen. So what do I have so far in Awen besides she was the spark of life and worshipped by bards? The thing is, you know how pretty much every god there is a drawn symbol or a depiction of them in some form? Well, we have her symbol. It's 3 dots with 3 rays on the bottom. But she is never depicted as any form. She is never depicted in a form. She is talked about in quite a few ancient poems and ballads, but she is never described in looks. So she is more of a force than she is actually a deity. She's something else. And last time, Cerridwen used the power of Awen to help me get closer to the One that I've ever gotten on my own. So there is some real power there. And I learned that, according to the book, it was said that Cerridwen was the first person to have access to Awen's power where it was unregulated. Bards, they could only manifest so much of her power, if any at all. They merely called upon her to get inspiration for their poetry and their art. But Cerridwen was able to take it further to where she developed incredible powers and knowledge. And so what's my new evidence that I wanted to make this video about? Okay. So, in an effort to find out more about Cerridwen, I went into the astral. I went to the center of Bala Lake, which is where she was said to live, which is in northern UK. I believe it's Salisbury, UK. And I set up an altar to her. I had symbols of Awen, including candles, white candles with her symbols drawn on it, a cauldron. I put herbs on there, including yarrow and lavender, and a rose oil because I know that she is like that in my physical rituals. I have also lit incense, and I use the crystals amethyst, quartz, and selenite. And at the time, it was nighttime, and the moon was full, and it was huge. I mean, it was so close to the lake. If it were that way in real life, that water would be rising up. Things would be off. So I was in the astral, but I had the depiction of Bala Lake around me. I called to her. She came almost immediately. And I said, "Here, please take these offerings. I hope you like them." And she's like, "I accept your offerings, and I am actually glad that you are trying to receive Awen's blessing." And so I tried to elaborate further. I'm like, "Well, how did you gain Awen's blessing? How did you connect with her?" And she told me a story of her own life. So many years ago, when she was living, she had a small little home right next to Bala Lake. She lived off the grid. People came to her for like aid whenever they couldn't afford treatment by doctors at the time, or maybe they didn't trust them. They went to her, and she helped them. Well, one of the people that came to her was a bard. She invited him inside, and they had a nice talk. And he was telling her about his craft. And he happened to mention the name Awen. And so she wanted to know further about who Awen was. And he told her that Awen is not a force or a deity that you talk to deliberately. You can't talk directly to her, but you must listen to her. You must listen to her words. And when she told me that, I was kind of confused. I'm like, well, if you can't really talk directly to her, then how are you supposed to communicate with her? How are you supposed to get in touch? And she told me that Awen lies within the hearts of every person. Awen lies in everything. She is the spark of life. She is the spark of inspiration. She is in every heart. And what she did was she would meditate, and that was her way of kind of communicating with Awen without directly communicating with her. She merely tried to communicate with Awen mentally without actually speaking, and she meditated and focused on her symbol and her energy. And she said in time, she gained incredible powers, including, oh, excuse me, had a burp. And in time, she even learned about a potion that eventually she would make for her son that would give him not only the mind of a brilliant poet, but also grant him incredible powers such as shape-shifting. And this was a potion that it took a year to make, and there were so many ingredients, and all it took were 3 drops on a person's tongue to grant them this blessing within Awen's cauldron, which was a cauldron that Awen's symbol was etched into it. It was technically Cerridwen's cauldron, but it's also known as Awen's cauldron. But the rest is poison. The rest of the potion is poison. You can only take 3 drops, so there's a dosage issue there. And I'm not going to go into the whole legend about, what happened with the potion, but that's apparently where she gained that knowledge. And I have tried to contact Awen before directly and asked for her blessing, and I was denied. And during that, I did mention this in one of my previous investigation videos where there were storm clouds swirling and there was lightning, but there wasn't. Whenever I try to contact Awen, she's never appeared as an actual person. She's never appeared as an animal. She only appears as her symbol with magical clouds around it. this cloudy type of magic around her. She is never seen as an actual being, which makes me believe that she is something a lot more than the other gods that I have prayed to before. She's something else, maybe something more powerful. But I turned to Cerridwen because Cerridwen had her blessing already, and I have a good standing with Cerridwen, so I was hoping to get some information more about Awen from her, since she is the most legendary witch that I've ever known that has had contact with Awen. She's like the only one. And considering that the run-ins with Awen's power that I've had, I had to incline further. And by the end of this whole astral projection, she said, if anyone can do it, I know you can. And then she kissed me on the lips, and then she disappeared, took all of the offerings that I gave her on the altar with her. They were completely gone by the end of it, which is not an odd occurrence. Usually whenever I make contact with deities and give offerings, usually if they have accepted my request, then usually they will vanish, and so will the offerings, which means they took them with her, they accepted the offerings, and they will help me. So Awen did not directly tell me, like, step by step how to technically communicate with Awen, but she gave me at least some guidelines to go off of, and I learned some more things about Awen from her. Because I've tried looking online, and in the book I've read, she's merely mentioned in a few poems. She is never described as a deity would normally. Like, we all know that Zeus was a big guy with a big beard, and he had lightning. None of that. She's something else. And where she came from exactly, I don't know. How the bards got a hold of her knowledge of her and her power, I don't know. I would assume back then that bards were a lot more spiritual and perhaps meditated or tried to work with gods from ancient gods, and perhaps maybe someone actually made a genuine connection and discovered Awen and her power. But considering that Cerridwen was the only person, and Cerridwen wasn't even a bard. Cerridwen was an enchantress. She was a witch. And considering that she was the only one that was able to access Awen's unregulated power, and she had the ability to shapeshift, knowledge of potions that could heal or harm, she was powerful. And I think if I am able to make contact with Awen and receive her blessing, I think she could be the key to helping me find out more about the one, maybe carve the pathway of where I need to go next on my spiritual path. I will be continuing to work with that one subscriber I told you about. We've agreed to help each other out with our spiritual goals, and I'm excited. I'm very excited. I can't wait to see the knowledge that we uncover next. And do trust that the next information that we get, I'm going to share on here. Because I do not want to be the only one to have access to this information. I want it to be accessed by all. Now, not all of you are going to understand. And not all of you are going to get it right away. Some of you may not get it at all. And that's okay. These things take time. I wish I could give you a more in-depth analysis, like constantly bring you updates on this investigation, but as all good things, they take time. All things in the spirit world take time. All things with magic take time. So bear with me, and I will do my best to bring you as much information as they come up, and updates, I will definitely let you guys know. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell button so you don't miss any of my future uploads. And I wish for you all to have a blessed spiritual path.